for joining us to discuss these issues and probably proffer solutions to this. Mr. Kingsley Aldo is a former special advisor to the Minister of Power and the Group Managing Director and CEO of Plantrix Energy Group. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. It's a pleasure to be here and welcome back.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to you.
Good to be back, and Happy New Year to you as well.
Pleasure.
So, another great collapse. Very sad commentary. Whichever way we look at it, somebody had to remind me. Remember, isn't it about 18 times that the grid has collapsed in 3 years?
Yes.
And they thought, you know, when you hear that once, twice, thrice, but 18, it sounds like not even a very good movie script, a bad movie script. But in this case, it is our reality. So what really is going on with this? Is it that I can't even explain this. I can't even process it mentally. Why is this happening?
Thank you, Chamberlain. It's saddening for all of us, you know. But the reality is reality. Now, let me tell you a few things that we will need to face as a nation is, one, both TCN and, of course, NISO, they must put their acts together to make sure a few things happen. Now, we are aware that the grid is old. That is established. Some of these lines are 45 years old, some 30. The expectation is that there would have been continuous upgrades, revamp, you know, section by section. But that, again, maybe it's happening, it's not happening as fast as it should, right? So that is one big issue that needs to be dealt with. The second big issue is there's what you call relay coordination. Again, why does the grid collapse? So first, there's a trip in Lagos, and that trip redirects or reroutes load to some other area, and then there's a spike in frequency, whatever it is, and then everything just keeps going like a pack of cards. So there's a trip, and that trip leads to a collapse, and then that collapses, and all, it just keeps going. So that is the first challenge, that we need to be able to nip those trips in the bud when they happen in isolated locations before it becomes nationwide. Now, there's what you call relay coordination at each of those levels, meaning that you can ring fence it, and so the relay for each of those points in the TSs, transmission stations, are able to read and then isolate, but no. So, and I don't think that TCN and all of those who are concerned have been able to, over time, even look at all the relay systems and see that they have, they are up to speed, you know, by way of new inputs, technology, whatever, changing all of those relays. So I'm sure that as old as the lines are, so maybe the relay systems are. So with that, we're going to always have a systems collapse. Thirdly, we know of these repeated gas constraint issues and all of that. I mean, it's there. It's staring us in the face.
TCN and TCN can't get gas.
So Chamberlain, the challenge I have is that we're a gas-producing nation technically, and I expect that government should be able to say, for every gas that comes out, 20% or so must stay in country.
See, I'm trying to jump in. When you say for every gas that comes up, I understand that the gas that we even have is what they call associated gas.
Yes.
It's not even that we're deliberately going and say, okay, yeah, this is why we're going to get the gas out. It's capped. Associated gas because they're drilling for oil, and then you see gas on the way and then just use it.
So let me say this, right? Typically, if you're drilling for oil, your equipment and all the tools and all that you bring to bear for that process will be targeted at oil. Gas will be a byproduct. If you're drilling for gas, all the things, equipment that you bring will be gas targeted, and then oil will typically be a byproduct, right? So the concept we've had over time is in a gas field or in an oil field, there are going to always be associated gas. And we're a gas nation, actually. We have more gas than crude. So the expectation is that we must, knowing that gas drives the energy sector, especially the power, gas-fired plants all over, which is 80% of our power sources anyway, that there will be concerted effort by government to say, look, we must focus on gas to power and enable enough gas to drive our engines locally. And that is not happening. And so you are going to have, you're treading on a very sensitive pathway that can collapse anytime. A little tilt that there is less gas coming to the system will make the system wobble. And then as the system is wobbling, not enough because load is being pulled, there will be a collapse. You know, and so to cap this, Chamberlain, is that we've not been able to implement our SCADA systems, right, which is going to make that grid a sensitive grid and a smart grid to just in time to read if there is an anticipated collapse. The system itself will recalibrate. Now, to add to this, the GENCOs are supposed to have installed what you call governance control for each of the GENCOs. So what governance control does is that it reads the frequency range at every point in time, that if it shoots above 50, it's able to either shut down engines, and if it's, or bring up engines, I beg your pardon, then if it goes below, it's able to. So these things they're tightropes, but it needs checking. And if humans are the ones checking, that's how it is today.
So that's part of where lots of people think that the government is not being sincere with the people. For instance, last government told us they were going to get 40,000 megawatts of electricity to this country first 4 years. I said, well, we know that didn't happen, not even a chance. This government has told us now that they will get 15,000 megawatts before, or latest by 2027, when the president is going to go for his first term. But as we all know, we know we're a far cry from that. So one then wonders, why do they keep doing this and telling Nigerians this kind of narrative that never flies? For instance, they wonder if Professor Bathinaji is able to do this in Abia State, where almost, I think, I don't know, I need to check if all the local governments have it now. Why is it that Nigeria doesn't seem to be able to achieve it at the federal level?
So, Chamberlain, you dealt with the core of the matter. How do we have one huge elephant, let's call the grid, when we can have a distributed structure? Now, the Act, the 2023 Act, actually is giving power to states to have what I will call islanding, meaning you can have your own generation, transmission, and distribution in your state, ring-fenced. Have you not wondered why state governors have not been able to, okay, yes, a few of them, maybe 6, 7, I'm not sure, have been able to at least sign, do their paperwork, but the practical implementation of enabling investment to begin to have a framework of a generation, transmission, distribution structure for that state. I can't see any of these things happening.
Why do you think that's happening?
So it's the concern, because the governors who have been enabled by law to begin to have what you call a distributed approach, so that we are not all relying on this one grid that is killing all of us. I was saying, look, do the things, you can attract investment, you can do what you need to do, so that we have some isolated cases that are working, like Badnaji, that's Geometrics, right?
Yeah.
Geometrics is working. And I recall the other day they celebrated no blink, no downtime for over, I don't know, 2-3 months. I'm not sure what it is. But I'm saying, Tamlin, that it can work if we put a mind to it. How is a governor who has some energy mixes, why are you not able to sign some kind of agreement, bring investors to the state? We're not saying use your state's resources. Bring investment to the state and enable that structure. It will create social economic activities, boosts confidence in your state, bring more investors. Why are they not able to do this?
Some say some of the governors are greedy. They always want some cut in the entire deal. And if a businessman says, look, this is not viable, they just pack their bags and get off. They say, that's your loss. Even several other sectors in the economy always have this problem when they have to do certain things. And so one wonders, look, when are we ever going to get to the bottom of this? And as a matter of fact now, Professor Naji told us on this same program that it takes 4 years. If any governor wants to do it, you can achieve what he's done in 4 years. Even though they frustrated him, and his was about 20-something years. At the same federal level, where he served and then he eventually resigned. So it means that there are some vested interests at that federal level that don't want certain things to work.
We have to be clear in our minds as a people and as a nation that it's only when power works that every other thing will work. I mean, I'm not the president. I'm sure he's doing a whole lot, especially with all the military initiatives that they're putting in place. But I do know that if once power works, a whole lot of things will work. So I expect government to look at how to ensure that this power sector works. And it's shameful because we have what it takes to work. We have the gas is a driver for that success, and we have gas in abundance. The investment in gas is another matter, and being able to create policies that put the nation first. How do I come to Nigeria? I mine gas, sell it in the international market, make my money, and then I say, okay, I pay the taxes and all of that, but the nation is in darkness. How can't, for example, government say, for every gas, I said that earlier, that is mined by any gas producer in this country, you cannot forward contract all the gas and then we're in darkness. 20% of that gas can, by way of policy, to say, look, that gas must fire industries, gas to power engines within the country. It will make a huge change.
Ayo.
You've spoken significantly to what the states need to do and all of that. From where you sit, is it a problem of the costs for the governors? Or what exactly do you think is inhibiting? If the states individually cannot afford it, do you see an opportunity in regional ownership where the number of states in each region come together to own, just about the same way the federal government has had it over the years? After all, they have development commissions, each of them.
Very good question, Ayo. Thank you for that. So, you see, it's when I engage a process that I'll be able to begin to see the challenges and then see whether we would need some structures that leverage by way of collaboration and all of that. But if I have not first engaged the process to say, how do I get this moving? There's been a lot of paperwork by governors, you know, oh yeah, they've signed the laws, their regulatory agencies are up, the electricity boards are up, and that's where most of them have left it. I have not seen the next steps very clearly with timelines so that they can now say, oh, we don't have the means, but we can collaborate with other states. And I agree with you, regional collaborations and all of those kind of things are things that can happen. And even engaging, because when you cross from your state in the new act and move to another state, then you must engage the federal neck, because now you have left your own state, because now you must use national infrastructure, which is maybe, for example, the transmission grid, access and lines. All of those things can play out. But the most important thing is the will to know that what are the energy mixes in my state? What are the opportunities that I can bring? Where am I canvassing for funds and investment to drive this process? Am I doing enough as a governor? And if you ask me, I would say no. None has done, apart from the Abia model. A lot of them have just, been talking, and we are not seeing the next real actions with timelines that will be able to deliver on this.
Now, just one more question, because I know we're running out of time. You talked about the age of the current infrastructure and for which reason they are, collapsing here and again, time and again. How about the maintenance systems around these infrastructure? Because even if we are able to build new ones, and we don't have a structure of a maintenance system to ensure that, from time to time, whatever needs to be done is done, so that we don't have the kind of situation that we're having on our hands now, we're going to go back there. What happened, in your opinion, to the maintenance structures that ought to have maintained this equipment for this long? Because I don't think it is a problem of use, because there have been other infrastructure in other industry, even in engineering, that last decades. I mean, the first mainland bridge in Lagos, Kata and Eko Bridge, first and second mainland bridges in Lagos, they've been there for many, many years. All they do is maintain, even though that also takes quite some time. So this thing, I think it's the same for electricity, don't you think so? What is wrong with the maintenance systems that's not able to deliver on sustainability?
Again, thank you, Ayo. So it's a will for agencies of government to, especially, TCN has just been broken into two. So you've got NISO and you've got TCN themselves. Now, maintaining this infrastructure over the years had been the core responsibility of TCN. It means that at every point in time, they're able to see where the weak points are, the aging equipment, the sections that are failing, and then they're able to raise tenders, which they have done at some points. But question is, there's a lot of things begging for answers. The expectation would be, if the tender had gone and the tender has been very well scoped, then it's expected to deliver for that segment and get it done. But if there's no sincerity of purpose, if loads of things are, again, like Chamberlain said, not true to what it is by way of the operators of those agencies of government, and no one is calling these guys to account in terms of taking responsibility and accountability and ensuring that what you did had stood the test of time and is evaluated and it's working. If people are not held to account, then people would think it's always going to be this kind of opportunity to come, do a tender, and then it doesn't serve the purpose, and then there is nobody that's held to account. So you see this playing out. But if people are held and people pay for the things that had failed over time and you are the one responsible, then the next person would sit up. So I think largely you would say that corruption is also a bane of the sector. So it's something that needs to be addressed. And that's the core to the question you asked. Because if I've tendered for a job and I'm supposed to maintain it 100% and I maintain 10%, or maybe I don't have enough resources by way of release from government. So there's a government side of this as well, because there's sometimes, okay, so there is a budget and there's a release that does not adequately cover, so you do what you need to do, and then all kinds of things are enmeshed in it, and then of course you can give a story that is not tenable. But this is a challenge.
As we wind down, what can you tell us about that? Because the Minister of Power, I think he spoke about the discos giving consumers meters free of charge. Don't charge them, because he says this has been paid for, is funded program by, I think, the World Bank. But the discos in turn, from what we see everywhere, says, look, that's a political statement. That who's going to pay for it? Are we to bear the cost of installation? That the minister ought to have sat down with the discos and then work out how that is going to be, rather than just make that statement, because no, they rejected that plan and said the consumers will pay. What's going on?
Thank you very much, Hermelin. So I would break it down just a little bit. So there is the free meter themselves. So the meter, there is the what you call power sector recovery plan. Okay, in this, government says we will provide the meter to the disco. However, the cost, that meter is an asset in the disco books, so it has to be accounted for. And previously, and I think that still stands, that meter will be paid for over a 10-year period by way of tariff. So it's easy on the consumer that he's not feeling the bite on him to say, I drop X amount for the meter. Now, the minister is correct to the point that federal government is buying the meter and the meter will be deployed free. But the challenge is the minister did not look at the meter installer side of things. The meter installer is not the disco. It's a bunch of private guys who the discos engage, and for each meter, I think it's between 5 to 10,000 or 15, I'm not sure.
So for installation?
Yes, to install the meter.
People pay more than that, by all means.
No, so I'm saying this is what the rule.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Well, there's no supposed to, because it's private. So whatever they charge, but I think the discos working with the maps, meter asset providers, have been able to find a reading.
But there's supposed to be a threshold that you can't exceed. You can't just charge any amount.
It's between, what I know is between 5 and 10,000 there. Okay?
But we know that's never the
that
case.
is for the meter installer.
Okay.
Now, what the minister did not take into consideration is that the meter installer does not, he is a contractor to the discos, doesn't work for the discos. So the discos are asking, who will install? So the meters are in my warehouse, but the meter installer has to be enabled, right, to take the meter and hang it on the wall of the estimated customer, meaning the consumer. But if that is not taken care of, who pays for that? So, yes, the tariff would come and cater for the meter, the asset itself, over a 10-year period. But who pays the MI for taking that role of installing the meter? So what I would have expected is that ab initio, from the DISREP program, provision would have been made for the meter installer so that the customer is made to pay nothing. But now it's run into some very confusing point where the discos are saying, who pays the MI? And the Honorable Minister rightfully says that the meter is free.
You know, listening to your explanation, I'm sure there are lots of people who will think, but these things are very basic things. It doesn't even have to be, you don't have to be at a ministerial level to figure this out and know what to do. Who was advising the minister? So is it that they couldn't do as little due diligence to ensure that these are the processes, this is what happened? Does it mean he's not even hands-on?
No, he's hands-on. I mean, the communication, like I said...
So why is it that he doesn't know that there's an aspect of this that needs to be figured out, taken care of?
Well, again...
This is a very minute aspect of this entire thing.
It's actually very minute. You know,
so but at the ministerial level...
That minute aspect can be some elephant in the room, because those meters can now stay in the warehouses of the discos for such a long time, because there's no MI, there's nobody who's paying the MI to enable the connection and ensuring that that meter works.
Even though we know that in many cases what you describe is not usually, that's the ideal thing, but that's not usually what happens. Some consumers, you'll be shocked, they'll tell you that these guys pay 50,000, some pay 100,000 for a meter, some pay...
No, is it for the meter or for the MI?
So that's where the issue is. these guys don't break it down for consumers of what these things really are. They tell you, pay for your meter. So people think, I'm paying for the meter, not even recognizing there's just an installation component of the whole thing. So they just lump everything and say, pay.
So, Chamberlain, let me say this so that you'll be clear. There have been various streams of meter provision. There is the MAP, which you know. There is the MAF, Meter Asset Fund, that's from NERC. There is the DISREP from World Bank, which is the one that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's also the PMI initiative, which is onboarding soon. So the point is, all of this, right, I'm sure some people would learn. PMI has to now ensure, and I think they will, ensure that the MI is taken care of, because the MI is critical in this ecosystem, in ensuring that the meter hangs on the wall.
I'm almost tempted to say we'll call you back when we have another Greek collapse, but I'm not praying for that. I just...
We're all work in progress.
Sometimes, even when I say, I hope it doesn't happen, you know that that's not the way to go. They have to do the right things to make their own luck. But if they don't do the right things, this kind of things will happen again.
The investments have to be right, and again, the political will to drive this process.
And the policies on the people have to be right for the investment to be right. Because you can't put something on nothing, on a faulty foundation. But well, thank you for coming on as always, to have you on Kingsley Odo as the GM, GMD and CEO of PoliticsToday Energy Group. All the best to you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.